Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to extend to you our heartfelt welcome to you. This is the opening of the Satoyama exhibition. My name is Yuko Kaifu. I'm the president of Japan House Los Angeles, and I have the honor of serving you as your Mr. as well. Some of you must have visited here for the previous exhibitions in the shop and other programs. We had a few workshops as well, but for those of you who have come here for the first time, we're really delighted to have your presence because this is the third exhibition that we've been having, starting tomorrow officially. We do have the fifth floor still under construction, which would have the restaurant, library, and the restaurant once it's open during this summertime. Our grand opening, we're scheduled to have it in late August. And once we're up and running, the entire facilities will be run with interesting programs, exhibition, and I would like to welcome back Chef Narisawa if possible. But without further ado, we'd like to start the program. The title of this exhibition is called Satoyama, Evolving with the Forest Exhibition, the collaboration between great talents in the culinary world. Before I go into detail of what the exhibition is all about, in the introduction with Chef and Sergio, who is a photographer, I'd like to acknowledge a few VIP guests. Consul-General of Chiba, Akira Chiba is here with us, with his wife. Where are you? We do have the presence of a few steering committee members, which is equivalent to advisory board. Mr. Peter O'Malley, Mr. Yuko Kaifu, I'm sure that there are more coming later. But I also acknowledge a very special guest, Mr. David Gelb, a film director, best known, well known for the film called Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and also he's the creator of the Netflix series of Chef's Table. David, is there? Okay, he's coming later. Say hello if he comes around. I'd like to call upon Consul-General Chiba, who's going to give us a few words.
I guess I don't get to sit down. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you very much for coming tonight. It's my great pleasure to join you for this private opening reception for Satoyama, Evolving with the Forest. We are very excited about the exhibit, which will open to the public at Japan House, Los Angeles tomorrow. I'd like to welcome renowned Japanese chef Yoshihiro Narisawa and celebrated food photographer Sergio Coimbra, who are here tonight to talk about their work. I'd like to express my appreciation to Chef Narisawa and Mr. Coimbra for taking time out of their hectic schedules to be here for tonight's event. I'm told that Chef Narisawa just barely arrived at LAX this afternoon and will be departing from LAX right away after the event. My most recent business trip to Tokyo was for only 18 hours, but his is even shorter than that. The good news is he will have no time to have any jet lag. Satoyama, Evolving with the Forest, is a visual journey that celebrates Japanese cuisine and Chef Narisawa's passion for bringing nature to the plate. Today is actually my second time to view his work, which was shown at Union Station in Los Angeles in May as part of the LA Times Food Bowl. This was during lunch break that I went, so it did help my appetite a lot. I was glad to see large crowds at Union Station stopping to look at the exhibit, mesmerized by the colors and beauty of Mr. Coimbra's photos of Chef Narisawa's creations. And this is the role that Japan House is meant to play, to further cultivate connections between the people of Japan and the United States and beyond through a multifaceted experience of art, culture, food, science and technology, tourism, entertainment, and much more. Please look forward to Japan House's full-fledged opening in the coming months. Thank you very much. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Consul-General. Sorry, it's a little bit tight. It's the first time that we're having the opening on this side, so we're delighted to be able to use the gallery space for you. So as Consul-General mentioned, Chef Narisawa has just flown in from Spain, where he received one of the most acclaimed food awards, the world's 50 Best Restaurant 2018, which was held in Bilbao, Spain this year. He just arrived, as I said, a few hours ago with his son Leo, who is currently studying at the boarding school in Boston. Actually, Chef Narisawa is a regular there in Spain, receiving every year this award as one of the top 50 restaurants in the world. So congratulations again. Other awards that he's received includes the most influential chef in 2010 by Madrid Fusion, and receiving the highest score in the world in the 2013 British Sustainable Restaurant Award. A bit about his background. He is the owner chef of the restaurant Narisawa, located in Aoyama, Tokyo. You should go there, because I cannot even describe how great it is. It's not just the taste of the food, but the concept behind it, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. He created his own genre of food, or cuisine, which he calls innovative Satoyama cuisine. His basic philosophy is to study all the wisdom of the Japanese landscape, which has been passed down by our ancestors, and to reinterpret this wisdom through his own unique filter. The culinary philosophy of Narisawa is beneficial and sustainable gastronomy. Chef Narisawa expresses his respect for nature and his wish for a safe and sustainable world through his dishes. Just a few minutes, Chef Narisawa is going to talk about his concept and gives us the walkthrough of his vision, along with the beautiful world-renowned dishes, the photos of his dishes. Now, I'd like to also introduce Mr. Coimbra, Sergio Coimbra, if I can call you Sergio, if you can stand and recognize. So he's the photographer of all the stunning photos you see today. Sergio is one of the world's leading food photographers. After 25 years of working in the coffee business, he decided to pursue photography. He's interested in taste and aesthetics, and in particular, light and texture. Sergio studied under prominent artists in New York and Brazil. In 2010, he opened his own studio, SC, in the center of São Paulo. He has shot the work of and published books together with world-famous chefs such as Alex Atala, Massimo Bottura, Heston Blumenthal, Tsuyoshi Murakami, and of course Yoshihiro Narisawa, and Nuno Mendes, to name a few. He was awarded the grand prize for food travel photography at the International Festival of Photography in Paris in 2011, after winning the public grand prize in 2010. Sergio, would you please, oh, you don't have to stand, I mean, the script says please stand. You don't need to. But how did they meet? It's a very interesting story behind it. So we're going to show you some food testing videos, like slides. So that was like 8 years ago when you two met, when Chef Narisawa was invited to the Mesa Tendencia. Do I pronounce it okay? Tendencia, a culinary society in São Paulo. Sergio approached the chef and asked if he would mind preparing some dishes in his studio space in Sao Paulo. The chef spent an entire day creating some dishes, after which the two became close friends with deep appreciation for each other's work. How lucky you are, Sergio, to have been able to try the chef's dishes there in Sao Paulo. We wish we could ask Chef Narisawa to do that, but he's not going to do that. But the food is the connector of the build of friendship. So they started their friendship since then. About 1 year after the Chef Narisawa approached Sergio and he asked if he wanted to come to Japan and create a book with him. Because he understands the chef's philosophy and dishes, Sergio agreed to work on the project. For 3 years, beginning in May 2014, the two of them traveled around Japan from Hokkaido to Okinawa, all around the country. The book seeks to discover the secrets of the Japanese countryside and Japanese culinary traditions that remain widely unknown even to the Japanese people, and to convey this unknown Japan to people all around the world. The photos in the book are the main component of the exhibition you see here tonight. So the books are one of the exhibits, right?
Yeah.
You can see the book later. Some of you may be wondering, what on earth is Satoyama? Sato means a place where people live. Yama, as some of you may know, literally means mountain, but in this case also means the forest and nature. The word Satoyama, therefore, refers to the places where people live in harmony with nature. The chef's work, it revolves around exploring and understanding these places. Finally, now I'd like to call up Chef Narisawa and give your talk to give our audience, the guests, the more in-depth exploration into your world of Satoyama. So please welcome everyone, Chef Yoshihiro Narisawa.
皆さん、こんばんは。こんにちはですか。こんばんは。
Good evening, everyone. Or is that hello? I can't quite recall.
今ちょっと今はどこで何時かがわからないぐらい移動してます。すみません。
Where am I and what time is it?
はい。ですね、今日は皆様ようこそいらっしゃってくださってありがとうございます。
Thank you all very much for joining us at this gallery this evening.
そしてカイプさんはじめこのジャパンハウスのロサンゼルスのジャパンハウスの皆様、本当にこの展示会のために、たくさん協力していただいてありがとうございます。
And a big thank you to the Japan House and Ms. Kaifu who organized this exhibition on my behalf.
ですね、これからシグネチャーディッシュ一つ一つ見ていただいて簡単に、料理のその奥に、込められたメッセージ、それから哲学をご紹介したいと思います。
And now I'd like to introduce a few of my signature dishes and some of the philosophy that goes into and behind their creation.
まずはですね、僕は料理人として、普通に安全で美味しい野菜をいつも探し求めていました。
So as a chef, I would always search for some very safe vegetables in a field that you can see, such as this one.
そんな中ですね、真冬のこのちょうど写真にあるように真冬の時に、寒い時期に畑を訪れました。
And there was one time I stopped by a field in the middle of the winter, as you can see in this photograph.
見ての通り畑には何もなかったんですね。
And nothing much in the field.
でこの時にまず 気がつきました。僕はこう安全で、美味しい野菜をこう探している、それを育てている生産者の人というのはこのこういう方ですけども、そういった野菜を育てる前にこの安全で、環境にいい土を育てているんだなということを気づいたんです。
And during this trip, that is when I realized in my search for very safe and delicious vegetables that the farmer actually, before he farms and produces anything, he is actually farming and grooming the soil, producing very nice soil.
で、こういったそうですね、こう日本だけではなくて世界中が安全な野菜や果物、食べ物をですね、手に入れることができる。そのためにはこの土というものが大事だと、そういったメッセージを一皿にしたいと思いました。
And that is when I got the inspiration to turn this idea of finding very delicious yet very safe vegetables, fruits, whatever produce it is, into a single dish.
でどうしたかというとですね、この土を食べる、そして、その食べることによって、食の安全性というものを伝えたいと思いました。
And that is when I wanted to include this message into the dish that it is safe, in fact, to eat this soil.
材料はですね、この土とこの根っこのように細いごぼう、そして水だけです。
So the ingredients in this dish is quite simple. It is the soil you see here, and the gobo roots or burdock roots, and water. That's it.
これが2001年に、考え出したというか、生まれた料理で土のスープと言います。
And this I developed in 2001 and call it the soil soup.
やはり人が物を口にするときに、人は動物に変えるんですね。この口にするものが安全かどうかということを真剣に考えます。
And I think humans, when we bring something to our mouth, we think about, oh, how safe is this? And that's kind of our animal instinct, I suppose.
皆さんこれをまず土のスープと言って出したときに一瞬考えるんですね。
And I think it's safe to say most of my patrons, when I tell them that this is a soup made from soil, there's a little bit of hesitation there.
もうそれはやはりこう食べることによって真剣に考える、それをきっかけに環境だとかその食の安全性というものを、深くこう見つめ直す、そういったきっかけになればというお料理です。
And through eating, it actually inspires people to rethink a lot of what they bring to their mouth, and that I hope is sort of the starting point for people to rethink what it is that they eat in this world.
もちろんですね、これは大学というか専門機関にですね、国の専門機関に、調査を依頼してこの土が安全かどうかを検査していただきました。
And of course, I made sure that this soil was safe, and a government institution tested this to prove that there's no harm in eating it.
見事にですね、完璧なまでに安全な土でした。そして、もう一つ面白いのは顕微鏡で見るとこの土の中に無数の微生物が生きているんですね。
And thankfully, it was extremely safe. It was rated very, very safe. And actually, when you look at this soil underneath the microscope, you can see a lot of very small microorganisms.
土は生きていたんですね。で、この土が生きている中にたくさん生きている微生物があることによって土だけで作ったスープが非常にうまみを含んでいて、そしてほのかな甘み、そして塩もしてないんですけども、土に含まれている塩分も感じるという料理になります。
So the soil is in fact alive, and this soil, because it is alive and it has all these microorganisms inside of it, it has hints of umami, sweetness, as well as a little hint of salt, when in fact I didn't add anything of sodium or that nature.
この料理をきっかけに僕がその環境とそれからガストロノミーですね、より美味しく食べるという意味ですけども、レストランでそのサステナビリティとか、それから その環境をですね、持続可能なというものを考える、自分自身もそれが、この料理がそれをスタートするきっかけになりました。
And through this dish, I hope that people can reconsider elements of gastronomy, especially the environment and the impact. And this dish for me was kind of a wake-up point, a wake-up call as well. So I want to share that with people who enjoy it.
次にですね、こう畑の周りの環境を見たときに、生まれた料理を紹介します。
Next, I would like to introduce a dish that I was inspired by when I saw what was around the fields.
これはですね、この畑の近くにある湧き水が出ている、風景です。
So this is a little stream that was running nearby the field.
このロサンゼルス、アメリカにもこういう場所はあると思います。環境が整ってで湧き水が湧き出てでその周りには、これ、天然のクレソンだとかそれから、タゼリ、いろいろな食べられるハーブが、自生しています。
And I like to think that streams or ecosystems like this exist around Los Angeles as well. And this is a natural forming spring. You can see there's a lot of herbs growing around it.
この先10年、20年、次の新しいその未来のですね、世代にこういったその貴重な風景、自然環境が整った美しいこう、風景を環境を残さないといけないと思います。
And I believe that we have a responsibility to leave behind environments, very natural ecosystems like this, 10, 20 years down the road for the next generation to come.
そこで考えたのがこの湧き水が出る風景を水のサラダにしました。
And that is what inspired me to create this. It takes that natural spring I had showed you earlier, and I had to turn it into a salad.
その湧き水が流れているその周りにあるハーブとそれからその水自体を食べられる形にしたんです。
So I took the herbs that were growing naturally around this very, very fresh water and the water itself to prepare this dish.
まず水とですね、この、風景の中にあった天然のわさびを使ってわさびの味のする水を作りました。
So first I took the water and the natural forming or growing wasabi in its vicinity to create water that has a hint of wasabi.
そして周りにその風景と同じように、クレソンだとかその他食べられるハーブを添えたわけです。
And just like that image that I saw of the spring with the herbs around, I took the wasabi and watercress and arranged it into a dish that you see right here.
次にですね、今度畑からその周りにあった風景、そして少しこう目線を上げていくとその奥に、森が見えたんです。
So first I started inside the field and then I saw what was around it and I shifted my gaze upwards a little bit to see the forest that was behind.
森を見渡した時にですね、そこに日本のその森の中に朽ちたもう古くなって使われなくなった、炭小屋を見つけました。
And inside this forest, I saw a little cabin that was used for creating charcoal.
今のようにガスや電気がなかった時代、もしくはそれがまだ発達していない時代というのは、人がこう森の中に入って木を間伐して切ってですね。で、それをで料理をしたり寒い時は暖を取っていました。
So once upon a time, before we had convenient things like gas and electricity, people would have to go deep into these forests and cut down trees, turn them into charcoal, and use that as a source of energy, whether it's cooking or to stay warm.
今日本ではですね、本当に森に人が入ることがなくなってしまって、森には木が生い茂る。そして、人が森と関わらないことによって、森がどんどん傷んできています。
So recently, I think in Japan, and this might be be true elsewhere as well, but people don't go into the forest as much as they have once a long time ago. So I think that has actually caused the forest to wither and not be as healthy as it once was by not having this interaction with humans.
世界中そうなんですけども、地球上で、原生林といってその人が一度も入ったことがない森というのはもうほとんどないに等しい、例えばアマゾンの奥だとかそういった本当にごく一部に限られています。
And I think that places like that are very limited. Forests that have absolutely no human contact or human interaction around the world.
一度でも人が森の中、自然の中に入ると、それは、人がですね、森を常にこう管理し続けないといけなくなります。
And once mankind enters these forests, there's this relationship where the people kind of help groom and tend to the health of the forest.
例えばドイツだとか北欧もほとんどの森が人が木を植えた森です。
So most of the forests that you see in Germany or the peninsula in Europe, I think those are forests that people actually planted the trees.
もう日本も同じですね。ほとんどの森、もう90% 以上、100% 近い森が人が関わっている自然です。
And the same can be said for Japan. Over 90%, quite close to 100% in fact, are forests that have somehow had human intervention.
人が森と関わり続ける、今人が森から離れてしまった、ところ、人が森に関心を持つきっかけになればいいと思って、考えた料理があります。
So this next dish was supposed to inspire and kind of get us back to our roots in terms of our interaction and relationship with the forest.
これは例えばですけども、備長炭、日本の特殊な、特別なチャコールですね、を作る小屋です。
So here you see a little cabin where they make bichotan charcoal, a very special type of charcoal in the forest.
このように昔の人はですね、今もこれは現在のものですけども数少ないです。こういったものが、森の中にたくさんあって人は森と関わっていました。
So long ago, there were many such cabins in the forest, and this one that I have here is actually one that's still active today, but they were dwindling in numbers.
このように木を間伐する、そして人が木を植える、要は、森をちゃんとこう手入れして循環させてたんですね。
So mankind would cut down the trees, turn them into charcoal, and then replant them, and this was part of the life cycle of the forest.
彼は備長炭を作る名人のうちの一人です。
And he is one of the bichotan charcoal masters.
このようにですね、備長炭の簡単な説明すると、小さな穴しか開けずに空気をなるべく入れないようにして、木を蒸し焼きにします。
So this is how they create the bichotan charcoal. It has a very small cavity, and they try not to let too much air in. You're almost kind of steaming the wood in a way.
どちらかというと木を乾燥させていくんですね、最初に。
And you want to really dry the wood in this first phase.
そして、最後にこの、穴を、壊してですね、空気を一気に入れて、高温で、焼き上げるわけです。
And in the final phase, you actually want to break this cavity and open up the charcoal to a lot of air at a very high temperature.
この備長炭を作るこの工程をですね、うまく利用して料理を作りました。
So I took this same philosophy of producing the bichotan charcoal and applied it to my dishes.
で生まれたのがこの炭という料理です。
And what I created is this dish called sumi.
炭というのは備長炭ですね。
And sumi is in reference to bichotan charcoal.
この、黒い物体、これ食べ物になかなか見えないと思いますけど。
So I know this might not look edible, this black object sitting right here.
初めてこれをお客様に出すと、何が出てきたんだろうっていう、驚かれます。
So when I first serve this to my customers, they will have very puzzled looks on their faces.
この黒くなっているこれはですね、ネギを先ほどの備長炭を作る工程と同じ方法で、炭化させた、パウダーです。
So what you see on the surface here is actually onion, and I took a very similar process to what you saw with the bichotan charcoal earlier, and completely charred them.
で野菜の炭化させたものっていうのは、東洋医学ですけども、デトックス効果があって非常に体にいいとされています。
And charred vegetables, this is Eastern medicine, but has a very positive effect on the body, a very detoxifying effect.
でですね、これをイメージとしては燃えている備長炭ですね。
And the image behind that dish I just presented earlier is this bichotan charcoal that's kind of embering.
このように中は神戸ビーフが。
And inside is actually Kobe beef.
焼き上げた肉の周りに、野菜を炭化させたものをまとわせて、仕上げています。
So it is Kobe beef cooked to perfection with charred vegetables on the outside crust.
このように、この料理を通してこの備長炭、人と森との関わりというところを、メッセージとして伝えたい、そういう願いの料理です。
So through this dish, I want people to really reconnect with the forest and understand the relationship that we have.
次にですね、さらに森の中に見渡す、そうすると森の風景というものが見えてきます。
So we will now enter deeper into the forest. So a lot of what you see are going to look like forest.
このように日本の森の中、いわゆる里山ですね、森の中というのは非常に、いろいろな多様性のある植物が、生息しています。
And inside the Japanese forest, you can see here what I call Satoyama. You have a lot of different vegetation growing naturally.
このように食べられる野生のハーブ、野菜、無数にあります。
And there are just a myriad of naturally growing herbs and vegetables that you can eat.
先ほどもお話ししたように、今こんなに美しい森なんですけども、人が入らなくなっていってしまっています。
So as I explained earlier, the forest, it's an item of beauty, yet humans have ceased to interact with it.
やはり今日本はですね、80歳以上の人がこういったその森との関わりの知識を持っています。それ以下の若い世代はもうみんなそういった知識もあります。
So I think in Japan, only the age group of 80 and above really have this very deep knowledge and understanding of the forest. Anyone younger than that, it really starts to decay.
そういったですね、貴重な知識、森との関わりの知識であったり、先人の知恵というものを、若い世代に、伝えていくために、もっと森に入っていくきっかけとなる料理が、このお料理ですね。
So this dish is intended to inspire the younger generation to interface more with the forest, to not be afraid of diving into the forest, and really kind of transfer this information that a lot of our older generation has to the next generation.
これは里山の風景という題名の料理です。
And this dish is called the scenery of Satoyama.
見たそのビジュアルですねがまず一つ里山です。
So first and foremost, the visual is very reminiscent of Satoyama.
もう一つはこの内容もですね、里山の食文化の大切なものを使っています。
And secondly, the ingredients in here is purely sourced from this sort of Satoyama culture.
それは何かというと、一つはその日本の食文化で大切な発酵の技術です。
And one very key element in this is the art of fermentation that has existed for ages in Japanese cuisine.
この景色の下にはですね、豆乳を乳酸発酵させたペーストが入っています。
So underneath this scenery, there is actually soy milk, lactic, that went through lactic fermentation on the base of this dish.
豆乳をですね、発酵させたものというのは、食べるもう抗がん剤と言われるほど、体に良いものになります。
And that is extremely good for your body, the fermented soy milk.
要は食べることによって健康になるという一つの日本のその里山の食文化の、いいところですね。
And that is one of the many great aspects and elements of Japanese Satoyama gastronomy, food culture, which is through eating you really maintain the health of your body and yourself.
でもう一つはですね、この先ほどお話ししたハーブですね。これが、食べられるんですけども、今はもう食べなくなってしまっている、忘れ去られそうなハーブたちです。
And of course you see herbs decorating this and garnishing this dish. And these are herbs and vegetables that are edible, but that people have forgotten about.
今これを、レストランで使うことによってこれを取るために、大勢の人が森に入ることになっています。
So by integrating this dish into the menu of my restaurant, now a lot of people must traverse these forests to find and source these herbs.
そして若い世代に、これは食べられるよとかこれは毒だよっていう知識が継承されています。
And through that, we are able to pass down the knowledge of, oh, this is edible, this is poisonous, to the next generation.
で、あちらにある木に入った木のコップですね。あの中には森のエッセンスが入っています。
And inside the cup, shaped like a tree trunk you see in the corner, is what I call the essence of the forest.
これは何かというと、木で取った出汁です。
And this is actually dashi that I extracted from trees.
何の木かというと、オーク、それから杉の木、この2種類で取ってあります。
And this is actually taken from two trees, oak and cedar.
直接、先ほどの土のスープと一緒ですね。直接火を味わうことによって森に関心を持ってもらう、そういった意味のあるエッセンスです。
And similar to the soil soup that I introduced earlier, by taking in this dashi of the trees, you're really kind of consuming the essence of the forest.
でもいろんな木で、これを取るために、試したんですね、僕が。いろんなもう5種類、6種類、10種類、たくさんの木で、何が美味しいかを試しました。
And I personally was the guinea pig in finding out which tree dashi, which essence is the best. I can't remember how many trees I tried.
もう本当に死ぬほどまずいものもあったり、あと専門家に後で聞いたらそれは毒だから食べない方がいいよって言われるものも試しました。
And I only discovered this afterwards, but some were just deathly awful, and others were actually poisonous. And I found out later through some experts.
さすがにスタッフにね、食べさせるわけにいかないんで、全部僕が、人体実験したわけです。
And this is something this is a task I couldn't give to my team members or my staff. So I took this challenge up personally.
そして、たどり着いたのが杉とオークだったわけです。
And through this experimentation, what I arrived at was cedar and oak.
で、よく考えてみたらですね、オークというのは皆さんご存知のようにバーボンだとかワイン、ウイスキー、すべてオークの種に入ってますね。
And in hindsight, however, I think oak you hear very often in the context of bourbon, wine, and many other items.
要は昔から、もうすでにそういうその森を味わうということは、先人たちがやってきたということです。
So what that really means is our ancestors actually understood this concept very well, and they were consuming and enjoying the essence of these forests.
杉の木ですね。杉の木は日本酒の樽です。
And the cedar wood is actually used for barreling Japanese sake.
まあ、いろんな実験をしたんですけど、結局先人がもうすでにやってたことに、ただもう一度気づいただけだったんですね。
So through lots and lots of experimentation, the conclusion at which I arrived has been solved by our ancestors ages ago.
まあそういう、まあ、無駄ではないですけども、たくさんの時間を使っているわけですけども、あとこの、木のお皿にしている板です。これはですね、家具を作るときには通常捨てられてしまっていた部分なんですね。
And next I want to point out this board upon which the dish is presented. This is actually pieces of wood that would normally be thrown away in the process of creating furniture.
こういったその捨てられてしまうような、木の廃材をですね、このようにして料理のお皿として使うことができるというのもですね、この、料理が生まれた頃2008年に、発表した後、世界中で一気に、ブームとなって、無駄なく森の資源が使われるようになっています。
And using recycled wood is something when I presented this dish, I think it was in 2008, I started seeing a lot more in restaurants around the world to plate on top of this recycled wood. So it really kind of not just inspires, but wakes people up to the idea of recycling and maximizing the resources that these forests have to offer.
で、もう一つですね、森を体験する料理があります。
And I have one more dish in which the people can experience the forest.
森のパンです。
This is bread of the forest.
これはですね、私たち今ここにこうして、皆さん集まってますけども、無数の金に囲まれています。
So here we are all gathered together today, and we are actually surrounded by many, many bacteria.
それをこう目で確かめる料理ですね。
So this dish is intended to remind people and to have a visual confirmation of this bacteria's existence.
これはですね、酵母の力ですね。目に見えない微生物の力によって、いろいろな料理であったりで、自分たちもですね、たくさんの菌、でできていると言っても過言ではないです。
So this is a visual reminder of the power of yeast, and actually a reminder that there are bacteria surrounding us and part of us as well.
このように、目の前でこう発酵させたパンをですね、食べていただくと、そういった試みです。
So what I want people to experience is enjoying this process of fermentation right before their eyes.
このように季節によっていろいろな、形に変えて楽しんでいただきます。
So this will change its shape and form according to the seasons.
これはですね、もう一つ森のパンというからにはですね、このイーストも森から採取した、イーストです。
So considering I call this bread of the forest, I made sure to, of course, source the yeast from the forest as well.
森の中にもそういった天然の酵母があるわけですけども、非常にその、森の中で勝ち抜いた、天然の酵母ですから、すごく強い、力強い酵母を、使っています。
So in this dish, I used what I consider a very powerful yeast, and considering it has survived in the forest in these various strenuous elements, I think it is the yeast that has survived the test, and therefore it is very, very strong yeast.
で実際にパンの生地の中にも、木の粉が入っています。
And actually inside the dough of this bread as well, there is a powder created from the trees.
今、専門家たちが非常に研究しているのは木を食べられないかということに取り組んでいます。その一つの試みでもあります。
And this is, of course, a lot of specialists and experts are experimenting and finding out if we can actually eat trees or not. And this dish is intended to inspire and kind of trace back to that message and idea.
今ここで話すと長くなるんですけども、木というのは、長いものだと何千年も生き続けているものがありますよね。
And I don't want to go into too much detail during this lecture, but I think trees, the ones that have survived a very, very long time, have lived thousands of years.
これというのは非常に神秘的な話で、科学的に考えるとだんだん分かってきているんですけども、その一つとしては抗酸化作用ですね。自分自身で、抗酸化作用を生み出す力がある、それを人間にうまく応用できないかという研究を今進めています。
And this is, of course, the research is centered around what the tree is doing and kind of recycling itself and how that can be applied to humans by consuming it.
次にですね、森と海との関係です。これはですね、健康な森があればそこから、非常に良質の栄養分が海に流れ込む。それで初めて海の海産物というのはできるわけですね。
And next is the relationship between the forest and ocean. And by having these very rich minerals flow from the forest into the ocean for the first time, we have this vegetation and life in the sea.
で、この山と海の関係を表現した。で、それぞれやっぱり海が健康であるためには森が健康でなければいけないというメッセージを込めた料理が、Mountain and Sea です。
And this next dish, I wanted to really show that relationship between the mountain and the sea. And in order to have a very healthy sea, we need a very healthy forest and mountain.
この料理はまず海を表現しているのはアワビです。
So what is expressing the ocean here is the abalone.
で、山を表現しているのは、自生している山菜ですね。ワイルドベジタブル。
And what is expressing the mountain is locally sourced very mountain vegetables.
この2つの、大切な関係というものをこの料理で表現しました。
And I wanted to really express this very unique dynamic between the two elements in this dish.
はい、でここでちょっと海の話になったので、皆さんに日本の昆布のお話をしたいと思います。
And now this brings us to the subject of the ocean. I would like to talk about kombu, a very unique element in Japan.
皆さん昆布はご存知ですよね。
Who here knows about kombu?
昆布で出汁が取れますよね。
So you're able to extract dashi from kombu.
なぜ昆布がたくさん生えている海に、出汁が出ていないのかご存知でしょうか。
So why isn't the ocean, which has lots of kombu on its seafloor, taste like dashi?
ね、出汁のたくさん出た美味しい海があってもおかしくないと思うんですけどね。
The ocean should really taste delicious.
その秘密はですね、僕も本当に知らなかったんですけども、現場に行ってみたら分かりました。
And the secret to this, I didn't know this until I actually went down to see the masters at work.
このように海から、昆布を取るわけです。
As you can see, they are taking a lot of kombu out of the ocean.
根っこですね。これ昆布の根っこがついてるんです。
And these are the roots that you see attached to each kombu leaf.
丘に上げてからですね、すぐにこの根っこを切ります。
And almost as soon as they take this onto dry land, they cut the leaves from the roots.
そして、すぐにこう海の近くで、干し始めます。
And begin to dry it right next to the ocean immediately.
これはですね、魚と一緒で昆布を生け締めにするわけですね。
And very similar to fish, they're actually trying to preserve that life. So they're drying it alive.
なぜ海に出汁が出ないかというと、昆布は自分が生きている間は、その栄養素を外には放出しないように保っているわけです。
And the reason the ocean does not taste like dashi is because the kombu tries to keep all these nutrients inside of itself and while it's alive.
ところが根っこを切って、昆布が死んだ瞬間から、栄養素である旨味を出し始めます。
And only when you cut the roots and the kombu begins to die will it leave this extract, the dashi or the umami.
ですのですぐにですね、このように干して旨味を、閉じ込めるわけですね。
That's why we dry them instantly and try to trap this umami.
ですから昆布漁というのは天気がいい日にしか絶対に行いません。
So kombu fishermen will only go out on a very, very sunny day like this.
このようにしてできるのがこの乾燥した昆布です。
And what you end up with is this very dried out kombu.
これはびっくりしたのはですね、こうブラジルのコーヒー豆も全く同じ方法だったっていうことです。
And what really surprised me is that in Brazil, they process their coffee beans through an almost exact treatment that you see here.
コーヒーを取って、そして外側の果肉を取った後、すぐに干して、旨味を閉じ込めています。
They will harvest the coffee beans, take it out of its shell, and dry it out in the sun almost immediately.
そしてですね、昆布の場合、これをですね、さらに1年、2年とこう寝かせて、エイジングしていくわけですね。そうすると、旨味がさらに増すということが分かっています。
In the case of kombu, they actually age this for a year, 2 years, like you see here.
このような昆布ですけども、この昆布とそれから昆布を食べてしまうものがありますね。それがウニです。
And as you can see here, we have the kombu, but there is actually an animal that eats this kombu, and that is the sea urchin.
この2つを組み合わせて1つのお料理にしてあります。
So I decided to combine the two into a single dish, as you can see.
で、最後にもう一つ、日本のですね、欠かせないその調味料のお話をしたいと思います。
And last but not least, I want to share a very important element of Japanese culture.
今この、日本の国旗ですけども、この真ん中にあるのが日本酒、お酒ですね。
And this, I know, looks like a Japanese flag, as you can see, but in the center of it is actually Japanese sake.
日本酒というのはこういったお米、からできるわけですね。
And sake is, of course, created from rice.
そしてこのお米をどうするかというと、発酵させるわけです。
And what you do with the rice is let it ferment.
その発酵に欠かせないのが、今この蒸したお米にかけている、麹菌です。
And what is essential to this fermentation process is the koji fungus, which is being applied here to freshly steamed rice.
この麹菌を使ってできるものには皆さんご存知のようにお醤油とかみりん、お酢、醤油、醤油とかあとお酒ですね、もう日本料理、それから日本の食には欠かせないものが全てこの麹菌によって生まれます。
And several condiments and items in Japanese cuisine is created through this fermentation process of the koji fungus. Soy sauce, sake, mirin, vinegar.
こういった、お醤油ですとか、それから、お酢ですね。今日あちらで飲んでもらった、お酢もこの富士酢伊予醸造のものですけども、お酢。
And here is a vinegar that I believe is out in the front.
で、あとみりんですね。
And mi.
味噌。そうですね。この麹菌というのは生き物です。先ほどと同じ菌ですね。
So the koji fungus is, of course, alive, like the bacteria we were talking about earlier.
で、先ほどもお話したように、自分たちの周りには無数の菌、いい菌もあれば悪い菌もあります。
And of course, as mentioned earlier as well, there are both good and bad bacteria surrounding us.
で、この麹菌だけをですね、今分かっているだけでも1000年以上前から日本には、麹菌を使っていろいろな、食べ物を作っていたわけですけども、その科学も発達していない時代にどうやってそのいろんな菌の中から麹菌だけを集めたのか、皆さんお分かりになる人いますか？
So how is it then, surrounded by bacteria, thousands of years ago, they were able to identify, isolate this koji fungus and use it, as far as we know it and has been documented, in culinary arts for 1,000 years? Does anyone know how they were able to do that?
もうね、その頃から日本人はこの麹菌だけを集めていろんな料理を作っていた。その秘密を解き明かす料理を考えました。
So I decided and thought up a dish to explore how the Japanese people were able to, in an age that science really didn't exist, identify this koji fungus and use it in cooking.
ですね、その秘密はこの椿にあったんです。
And the secret is in this flower, the tsubaki or camellia.
それはどういうことかというとですね、この、無数にある菌すべてがアルカリ性の環境に弱い、アルカリ性の中で死んでしまうということです。
And that is because a lot of the bacteria that surrounds us is actually very, very weak to an alkaline environment.
じゃあではなぜ椿なのかというとですね、そのアルカリ性、というのはこういったその炭化した、植物がアルカリ性なわけですけども、なんと椿の葉っぱとか枝を炭化させたものがいろいろな植物の中で最も強いアルカリ性を作り出すことができたんです。
And here you see a charred camellia, and what that does is that it lets out a very strong alkaline, a strong basic sort of solution.
ちょうどここにも飾ってありますけども、これが、実物ですね。椿の葉っぱを炭化させたものです。
And here we have it on exhibition as well. This is the actual camellia flower that has been charred.
なんと、1000年前の日本人の昔の人はこの椿が最も強いアルカリ性があるということを、発見して、なんとこのいろんな菌をですね、この椿の炭化させた中に入れるんです。そうするとこの麹菌以外の菌が全て死んでしまう。そして麹菌だけが残る。この、関係を使って1000年も前から麹菌を生かし続けてきたわけです。
So over 1,000 years ago, the Japanese people somehow thought of creating this very, very alkaline environment and applied a lot of bacteria on it. And naturally, the bacteria that survived this was the koji fungus.
そしてもっと驚くことは、このアルカリ性の環境の中で、なんとこの麹菌、科学的に言うとアスペルギルスオリゼと言いますけども、このアスペルギルスオリゼというのは死ぬどころか増えるという性質があったんですね。
And what they discovered is that in this very alkaline environment, the koji fungus, he said the scientific name, don't ask me to repeat that, but it doesn't just die, it actually flourishes.
この関係をですね、解き明かす料理がこちらです。
And this is the dish that kind of unravels the mystery of that relationship.
この料理はですね、デザートなんです。
And this is a dessert.
ですが、一切砂糖は使わないです。
But I don't use any sugar at all.
発酵によって、この麹菌の発酵によって生まれる甘み、皆さんご存知の甘酒と同じですね。その調理法を使って作り上げるデザートです。
And I use that sweetness that is a byproduct of the koji fungus fermenting as the source of what you sense as being sweet. And it's a similar process to the amazake, if any of you had that cloudy white sake.
このように椿とそれから麹を使って作り上げたデザートがこの椿と麹という一品です。
And this is tsubaki and koji, which uses the camellia flowers and the koji fungus.
このように、料理を通してですね、その背景にある日本の食文化やそれから環境、そういったことをメッセージとして伝えたい。日本人の知らないような日本の秘密ですね。そして日本人の原点であるその里山というもの、里山の文化、そして里山の食文化というものを伝えていきたいと思っています。
And so through the dishes, I really want to encourage people to explore and understand the culinary culture that exists behind the dish itself, and not just that, but behind Japanese culture as a whole. These are things that I think even Japanese people don't know, and really you can trace it back to the essence of the Satoyama culture as well.
この本を通してですね、より深く日本の文化、食文化を知っていただけたら嬉しいと思います。
And through this book, it would make me really, really happy if we can all understand the Japanese culinary arts even a little better.
そしてですね、この日本の里山の生活というものが非常に自然環境に優しい、人と自然の関わりというものが非常に重要だということも、分かっていただけると幸いです。
And if people can understand the Satoyama culture, the idea of humans and forest living together in harmony, we can understand that I think would be amazing.
最後にですけども、この3年にわたる、旅をですね、一緒に、やっていただいてこの本を作り上げたセルジオ・コインブラさんに本当に心から感謝したいと思います。
And lastly, I'd like to give Sergio a very, very heartfelt thanks, who has traveled with me these past 3 years and helped me bring this ideology to life.
ブラジル人である彼とですね、日本人の僕が日本を旅してですね、彼の目を通して、作り上げたこの写真の数々ですね、ぜひ楽しんでいただければと思います。
So I hope you can all enjoy this exhibition. A Japanese man like myself and someone from Brazil traveling through Japan, and seeing through his lens is all the photos you see on display in this exhibition.
今日はですね、本当にこういう時間、チャンスを与えていただいて感謝しております。ぜひこれを通して環境のことだとかですね、もう地球全体の問題です。食べるという、今回は食ですけども、食べるということはもう、地球上の人間にとって全員共通の課題ですので、一緒にそういった部分も、考えていただけるといいなと思います。本日はありがとうございます。
these dishes, we can help increase the awareness of issues such as environmentalism. And eating is a universal language. There is no human that can escape from the necessity of it. And how that is a part of our natural cycle is something that we should all be aware of, I feel. So we can experience that through the food which we eat. I think that would be really, really amazing. Thank you very much.
We have a few minutes for questions, so if you have questions, please raise your hands.
Is there any relationship between the use of tsubaki for your dishes and tea? Because tea is also Camellia sinensis.
お茶と椿というものは直接は関係していないですね、このお料理では。椿というものも日本人にとって非常にやはり、多分ですけども、この関係が麹との関係もありますし、それから椿からオイルも取れたりですね、いろいろなその日本人の生活の中に本来昔から関わっていたものなので、そういった意味で言うと、お茶の世界で、例えば椿をその季節に飾るとか、やはりこう文化としてつながっていると思います。
In this particular dish, it wasn't in my mind to really directly link it with the idea of tea. However, I think it is safe to say that the camellia is almost omnipresent in Japanese culture, and when preparing tea as such, someone might decorate camellia. This particular dish itself, however, is mainly to highlight the relationship between the tsubaki, the camellia, and the koji fungus.
I have a question for both of you. I'm particularly interested in how you put together some of the photographs. Whose ideas were they? Did you create the food to eat, and then it was your responsibility to create a photograph, or did you work together? I'm not sure how this works, because it's a very interesting part of this project.
全ての料理は、そうですね、写真を撮るためではなくて、料理があってそれを撮っていただいた。ただ先ほどもお話したように彼のその、目を通してですね、それからレンズを通して、彼ではないと取り得ない表現になっている。
So everything you see in this exhibition wasn't prepared for the sole purpose of being photographed, and they were intended to be eaten. However, it is through his perspective and his lens that he is able to express it in the way that you see it presented right now.
Any more questions? Thank you so much. You must be very tired because you've flown in from Spain and you are going to fly out, taking a night flight, and you probably would start working immediately upon your arrival. So it's such a stamina. We're very lucky, as the Consul-General earlier mentioned, he came here because Los Angeles Times wanted to feature his work and Sergio's work. So as part of the Food Week, Food Month, back in May, as food ball, project, they exhibited, and Japan has worked with Los Angeles Times to have exhibition at Union Station. But at that time, it was at the Union Station and was only part of the photos, but virtually no object to be exhibited. He came and talked, but it was very brief. So I asked him if he would not mind working with us for us to be able to feature the depth of his depth of his philosophy. And we kind of juggled through because he had to go to Spain, he had to come back to Japan by a certain date, and there was only one flight that would enable him to go to Spain and then come here for the opening. So we really are lucky that we have been able to have him here tonight. He's, as you can see, he's not just a celebrity chef, but he's a thinker, he's an artist, he is a philosopher, he is even a scientist, he's an environmentalist, ecologist, and everything. And we're so lucky that we are able to see his exhibition here. And he's going to publish a book. And part of it, like samples of his book, is in display. And it will be published next year. So I hope that our library up there would have one of the copies of this book. It's appetizing just to see the photos, even just to see the photos. I had the pleasure of visiting his restaurant, and I've tried pretty much everything that was there, including the bread with the forest. Very tasty, including the butter. And the beef was so amazing. The only thing that I could not really taste was the soil soup, because that's available only during the winter time when the soil is covered with snow. So the next time I'll be there, it's definitely I've got to try it. But then please, it's very hard to make reservation at the Narisawa restaurant. But because you're here, I'm sure that he would accommodate you. But it is just so amazing. And I also asked him if he can cook for us. And he said, want to, but no. Because obviously then I found out that he has close to 40 staff behind the scene to enable him to cook what he cooked. Then you could see the delicate work of him. So you have to go there. The only thing that, however, that he allowed us to serve from his creation is the vinegar drink. Some of you must have tried the vinegar drink, and some of you already told me that was very tasty. And I think that the vinegar is, you can buy it at the shop, and you combine it with the equal amount of soda water. And it's very healthy as well. And he also allowed us to serve one of the sakes that he serves at the restaurant. And please don't ask me the name of the sake, but please go to the bar and ask. And so we do have a reception to follow. Unfortunately, it's not his cooking. It wasn't really orchestrated by him, but then it's catered by M Cafe, and they're known for microbiotic dishes. So please enjoy the reception. This place will be open for you to take a look around. Please come back, get the words out. It's going to be here for a while until the end of July. So, but yes, one more thing that he wants to.
今回のエキシビション、それから前回サンパウロ、それからユニオンステーションとですね、この展示、非常に、協力していただいたテレビで本当に感謝したいと思います。ありがとうございます。
Very warm thank you to Felipe, who helped me organize the exhibition, of course, at Sao Paulo as well as Union Station. Thank you all very much.
Sergio is here. If it's possible, he talk with us something about 3 years experience for photography. If it's possible, I'd like to hear
Well, as you saw at the beginning, when I met Mr. Narisawa, and since that we became friends, and we decided to do the book. And the idea for the book was for 1 year, take the 4 seasons, because the food we have during the seasons completely different ingredients. And the idea is to do the book covering the 4 seasons. But the things were so interesting, and for me it was so nice. And what I saw, what Mr. Narisawa showed me, we decided to postpone and took 3 years. That's the point. It was a fantastic experience. I would consider it a life project, because it was something that I could do only with Mr. Narisawa.